Hello, and welcome to this session on the introduction to the JCL, or in other words, the Jedi Code Library. I'm Robert Love, and I am going to be leading through some details about this open source software package. The Jedi Code Library is under the MPL license. It allows you to use this both in open source projects as well as commercial. The Jedi Code Library, a great library. It's got lots of functionality. One of the key things about it is it's always supported by the latest versions of Delphi. It's easy to know this because the Delphi IDE itself uses the JCL. Specifically, there's a unit called the JCL Debug that gives call stack information when an exception is raised. And that is what you get when you're submitting error reports through Quality Central. And you'll see that there's a stack trace there with all the details. Well, you can have that same functionality if you'd like in your own applications, and much, much more. So what is in the JCL library? Well, there's a huge list of things that could be there, are there, and I could cover lots of things, but we have debug information, which I was just talking about, where you could see the call stack, where everything is. You also have complete classes to parse everything you could imagine about a PE file. So your Windows executable format, you could parse and extract resources. You could do whatever you would like there. There's good libraries to handle and manage all of that. Files and I/O, basically a good set of libraries to allow us to make it easier to do I/O and to work with different files. Several new math routines for statistics and things like that. Logic, such as bit manipulation. String manipulation, there is just overabundance of different routines that you have. You could do many things there that are useful. There's a whole section of date and time routines. They have unit conversions, so you can convert from one unit to another. They have an entire library of system information. This is actually where we're going to start when we do our demos, where you can find out any kind of bit of information about the system. Memory management. Everything from knowing how much memory is in use and what's going on the system to guarding memory so that you can ensure that it's being properly freed. There's other areas there with that. And this is far from a complete set. There's a whole library of collections. There's a Pascal pre-parser, and I had to choose for an introduction section how much of the library I could cover. There's far more there, and let's get started by just going straight to the code. Okay, I have brought up Delphi and I've compiled the JCL SIS info demo, and this is just a little teeny demo that ships with the JCL, and I would like to show you some of the different things that are there. One is there's a whole bunch of system folder calls. These return simple Delphi strings. We'll actually look at the unit here in a second, but you can get all the various folders that you may need to get access to, the common directories that might be there, things that are specific to the current user profile, where are things stored, how do I get to those. I'm obviously running on a powered machine, not a battery powered machine, but you can get battery life. Where are we with the memory that's on the machine, the keyboard, such as the numlock states, identification information such as MAC addresses and IP addresses, and we can get things like where are all the running processes and what's going on the machine at this given point in time. So let's I'll also show you the code behind this. So the code here is really just using a unit called JCL SIS Info. So if we open this unit, it is going to be a series of very simple one-line functions that do a whole host of functionality. But these the folders right here, you'll be able to say, hey, I just want to get the desktop folder. Where is the desktop folder located? I can just call get desktop folder, and it returns a string. And all of the folders are very quickly done that way. Sure, I could have used the shell API and I could have passed in the appropriate Windows constant, but this just wraps all that up in a nice, easy to use way, and that's there. We have the ability to get information about our drives. If you'll see here, we have volume information, serial numbers, stuff like that. Get the IP addresses, because obviously you can have more than one IP address for a machine. Get the local username, computer names, things like that. Note on, you'll see these BIOS names. Those only work under Windows 95, 98 series. So for the most part, those won't work for most people's code because we're all running on later versions of Windows. You can get the loaded modules that are running. Get things like from a PID, the process name from a handle. We can get everything we want to know about what version of Windows we're running. We can get specific information about, and you'll see this TAMD specific, TVS specific. We can get everything about the CPU. We can get down and find out what is available at the CPU if we need to. And we can also, and we're just going to go through a bunch of constants here, get what the OS is enabled for that. So we can, there's a function called get OS enabled features, so we can find out if SSE or the FPU features are there. We also have things like, the swap size on Windows, the total memory usage. Where are we with things like that? And you can actually keep track of that. You can also, if you'll see here, get the keylock state. So if I just say, hey, is the numlock state, if somebody press the numlock key or the scroll lock or the caps lock, you can easily use these functions to know what's next. The next thing we have is there's installed programs. So hey, is Word or Excel or Access, the standard Office applications, are they installed? Is OpenOffice installed? These are just all little teeny things that give us information about our machine, and it's there. So let's take a second and we'll look at one more area of this. So I have a little application here, and all it's going to do is, as I run it here, allow me to type in a command. So I'm just going to type a trib.exe here. I'm going to execute that. I commented out every version of it, so it obviously didn't execute. But let's hurry and get one of these in, and let's run it. And if I hit the execute, we are going to get the results of the trib command that's out there. This basically is a quick way to get there's functionality to call command line driven programs that are console based and interact with those so that you can get the results of those back into your applications. So let's show you how that was done. Let's look at this execute demo 1. Here is the method right here. I'm going to I've got it collapsed there, so it's right here. This is what we're looking at. First, I just cleared the results of that memo box that was there so that we have a clear thing. And I call the command execute. And I pass in what was passed into that edit control, edit command.text. So I'm basically saying attrib.exe. And then I get back an output. Here, this is a parameter that's output. And this is populated with what the application sent back to us. We're then able to use the error code and say, hey, if it was 0, then it's successfully executed. And I just set the memo results to the output. So it's a real quick, easy way to get that.
6 o'clock.
The next option I have is I got an execute demo 2 and a 3. So let's look at 2. 2 is basically the exact same set of code, but we'll notice right here we have on results string, and this allows us to pass in an event. And if you look at the very top of what I've displayed here, it is just an event that's passed in a text constant, and we just call memo results line.add. So every time it gets a line of text from the console, we can call this event. And these are basically that. But if you need something that wraps up things a little nicer into a class, then we have demo 3. There is the JCL command line tool. It's an interface. And we'll show you what it has for it. But basically, we create an instance of it. We pass in the command we want to execute. We have two options. Command does have an event hook, the output callback, where I've assigned that same on result string that we wrote earlier. Or there is a command dot output property that we can just access. And then we can say if command.execute and pass in any additional command line parameters that we'd like. And in this case, I don't want to pass in any. If that's successful, then we can say, hey, it executed successful. Otherwise, it failed to execute. So let's just look at where this is all declared. This is all in the JCL SIS utils. And in here, we are going to find a series of execute calls. Lots of different overloads, allows us to do all sorts of things. We can control a lot more. Say we want to be able to start this with specific process affinity, as far as is it a normal process, high, those types of things. Do I want different callbacks? So if the program's writing out to standard error, or versus if it's writing it back to the standard out, well, I can get to choose those. We have a lot of different ways to trap that information right there with these calls. However, there is this JCL command line tool. It's an interface where we can get the exe name, we can get some options, get the output that was when there, add path options there, basically, and then we can call execute. And this allows us to wrap things in an easier class-based method. So we have this class called JCL command line tool that implements that. The JCL SIS utils unit has many other bits of functionality, and we'll take a look at some of those right now. Alright, so what we have here on the screen is the section of the JCL SIS utils unit that has a few functions here called guard. The guard functions allow us to take arbitrary pointers and or objects and we get to use either an I safeguard or an I multi-safeguard. The difference between these is a safeguard is designed for a single object and or pointer, and a multi-safeguard is designed for multiples. And what the general concept here is, I can call, say, this guard get mem right here, or alloc mem, depending on what I'm trying to do here, and get the size, and it returns back this safeguard. All I have to do is declare an instance of safeguard. What will happen is, due to the semantics of how an interface works, interfaces are freed when they lose scope. So as long as we declare this, say, in our local scope, when, or in a private section of the class that we need to have this object instantiation work, as soon as that variable loses scope, it's freed, which works really well to know that that memory and or object is automatically going to be freed for us. It's just a quick way to take something that's object based and immediately get some of the behaviors that we like with interfaces. And so it's a quick and easy thing to do, and it has some real nice benefits. Let's go on to another area here. Alright, so I've opened up the NT service control demo. It's an example that ships with the JCL. And with this demo, we have a listing of all the services that are on my machine right here. I have the ability to start, stop. I actually can delete them. I can see lots of information about them. I can connect to an additional machine outside of the current machine using the standard Windows API. But how does this all work? Well, let's go into the code. There is a JCL SVC control unit, and in here everything is wrapped around. We'll just create a manager, and I'm going to find the manager here. So there is a JCL SIS Manager, which you get to create, and it has a bunch of default parameters, so you can get connected with the way you would like. And ultimately, once you've connected to that, you have some functionality. You have the ability to install services. Granted, this is a snapshot in time of what the services were when you first looked, so you can refresh that list. You can sort the list and various other things, but basically there's a property down here called services and a services count, and that returns the JCL NT service. And with a JCL NT service, I hit the wrong command to try to open it instead of just browse up to it. We get it's constructed for us, so we don't have to ever call the constructor here, but we then get methods: the start, the stop, the pause, continue, and we can get all the details about what's going on with that service. This just allows us to interact, monitor, and look at services in a very quick and easy way. Let's now move on to yet another area. I'm going to run the Microsoft Task Scheduler demo here that we have. This is also in the JCL as an example. And in it, I've dragging this over from a second monitor that you guys aren't seeing, but you'll be able to see the various jobs. We can get all the details of them. We can get the properties, go out and deal with those individual tasks that are out there. And let's also close out of this, go to the code, and this is all wrapped up in the JCL task is there. We have a JCL Task schedule, and this allows us to add various tasks. We'll get a JCL task, and these are all just ways of controlling the Windows Task Manager and being able to control all that from your code. Now, the key thing to note is typically with both tasks and with services, how you what you need to do if you're editing and actually changing those do require administrative privileges, and so then you'll need to have, if you're running under UAC, you're going to have that in a separate process space and have it launch and trigger the UAC prompt most likely, so that you can be able to edit or maintain those things, unless of course you're already running on your application as an administrator to begin with, which is what I'm doing here in Delphi. I've launched Delphi as an administrator to run these demos temporarily. Okay, now I've launched yet another demo. This is also ships with the JCL. This one I'm not going to show out the individual code, but I'm going to just show you what is available. The demo that we have here, that is right here, is the JCL PE viewer, and I can open up any executable. I'm waiting for, you can see the dialog to launch here. So I'm going to just pick, say that a logarithms example. And in here we can see the header and the various sections and any resources that it may have, say, you know, cursors or icons or anything that it may have inside of it. The imports, what it imported. Basically all of that information is now available as simple classes to navigate PE files and to inspect and or to work with those in any way you need and see as your needs. Let's go on to another one. Okay, so I've launched the JCL file version example application. It just has a little simple file viewer here on the side and lists the various files. And then if you highlight one of them, if there is file version information that's in it, you can get that. And let's kind of show the code here of where that might be. Well, that is in the JCL FileUtils. The JCL FileUtils has many things to work with files that are there to just help with various things that you may need to do. So building file lists, you know, there's a function in here called path is UNC, is it to disk device, you know, hey, I want to remove the extension, I want to remove the separator of the path. I want to, you know, obviously there are duplicates here to others. There's a del tree command here. There's obviously file exists and things of that nature that are here. But what we can also see is things like with that file information is, you know, like, hey, when was it last written? When was it last accessed? What was the date and time it was created? We can get all that information in really quick, easy functions. And I'm going to scroll down to the TJCL file version info. And here I can create for a given file that, and then I have a whole series of properties that gives me everything I need to know about that, if the information is stored as versions within that file. There's also some easy to use function calls that'll help us. Hey, there's a function here called version resource available. Hey, does that file even have that? If not, then let's not bother. We can take the low, the major, the minor, the build, the revision numbers that come from those version informations and create strings, which basically is concatenating the period in between them. Or I can do things like extract that version information very quickly into the various parts. And there's several other function calls here that deal with that. The other thing in FileUtils is it basically has things like a file reading, so I can take memory streams and I can do things like, hey, I'd like to do a read line on a memory stream. If you ever asked to do that, where you're saying, hey, I have streams, I know I'm supposed to switch from my assigned file, and I want to now do a read line. Well, here's a way we can do that. There's plenty of other ways to do that. So I can take a constructor here with a file name, and it's going to internally deal with the various read and read lines as we're moving through the file. I can also have end of file. It's just a quick, easy way to manage and read text files. Okay, so when you've installed the JCL, I've opened up the File Open dialog to kind of give you an idea of what we're talking about here. This is the directory of the JCL structure here. We got bin 64, this CHM help. I created that myself, so don't worry about that. DevTools, docs, examples, experts, help, and install. But ultimately we have our source directory, and that's so you're going to have the examples directory where we right here, where everything that we've been loading for these examples, there's many more in there that allow you to kind of browse through and see. The help is downloaded and installed separately. Well, it's not installed separately. When you download the JCL, pick the help for the type of Delphi compiler you've got, and you can see that in the downloads. Make sure that you download that at the same time. Then when you run the installation, it'll automatically install that into the IDE for you. Let's go in the next directory that's most important it's the most important to me, is the source directory. Inside of it, it has the common directory. That's usually the directory where the cross-platform functionality is. And then there's include. That's the file where most of the compiler defines are set and controlled. The VCL and the Windows directories are also here. These are specific to, obviously, those platforms and technologies. So if we go into common, we're going to see a whole list of various things that are here. An example is the JCL compiler utilities. If you're a third-party developer and you want to build an installer that compiles compiles your third-party package when it's installed, go ahead and reinvent the wheel, or think about using some open source as well. And the compiler utilities wraps the Delphi compiler. Hey, you've got an internal project, you want to do something special, and you don't want to use a tool like Final Builder for you. You can use these compiler utilities to help in your build functionality. So here's the JCL date time that I mentioned before. It has various date time, and there's JCL math and the logic. As you'll see that there's many more other things. So we have hash sets, maps, basically all the sets of collections. We have ANSI strings, We have an entire library of for the preprocessor functionality. There's regular expressions, queues resources. There's a whole section here on XML mapping, the RTTI, stacks. They have a whole library of statistic routines, streams, the JCL strings unit. Here, let's get rid of that help. And we have the FileUtils and SIS units that we've already seen, and unit conversioning, unit conversions. And so let's just take the strings right now. And in the strings, we have all sorts of various different strings routines that can help us while we're managing or working with strings. This when I was reviewing our own internal code base, I have found all of these string routines, not all of them, but many of these string routines rewritten by one developer or another when they needed them. And this was before we had the JCL. Our code base is quite legacy, and when appropriate, we replace those with these functions because it's just an easier way to know, hey, they're maintained. I don't have to worry about them, and I can reduce a code duplication that allows us to use a single common library. The functions are very useful. So you have things like, here's a whole section of character test routines. Hey, is it an alpha character? Is it blank? Is it a digit? Is a number? Is it a space? Things like that. You can do transformation, the character to an hex, character to upper and lower just on characters. There is a whole section in here for tokenization. So you can say, hey, I would like to take this string. So there's the string token to strings, and I have a string, and inside of it, it has something that separates items in this list. Say we have a path. We're taking the path from Windows. We could take the separator here as a semicolon, and it's going to return the list of all the paths already parsed out for us. So we have things like that. So basically, anybody familiar with Perl, we've got basically the same functionality as split and join here. So we can take things that we can split them into various arrays or join them back together. We also have the JCL string builder. Now Delphi also has a string builder in it nowadays. Basically, this is the same kind of concept. It allows us to build strings, work with them in a way that is not going to continually do massive memory reallocations. Allows us to deal with things in that way. Then there's a whole class library for tab sets and the strings. So if you have a tab character and a whole series of tab characters, you might say, hey, I want tabs to be in a document every 5 spaces along, or I want custom. Well, you can use the JCL tab set to set those, but then there's routines here to optimize that. So if there's spaces in that, you can make sure that it's using the most minimal number of tabs and or spaces to get the same functionality or result desired. You can also take all of the tabs, and given the spacing that you've specified, turn them all into spaces. That's the way I like my source code. I like all my source code to be tabbed out, but the reality is I don't want the tab character stored. I would like it stored as spaces. And granted, Delphi has that as an option, but I'm just showing you some libraries to work with files that are there. StringUtils is one where you should just open it up, kind of browse through each one of these. Now, I like looking at the code, but there's far better ways to deal with this, and here, let me show you something. Okay, so I've taken a moment to launch the JCL help file, and I wanted to point out how unlike many open source projects over the years, if you want to use the code, you've got to just use the source, and that's how many of us have learned how to operate. But the JCL comes with a lot of good documentation already there, and in the help file you'll find not everything is perfectly documented, but it is very well. And so you can come in here and find, say, let's look at the math routines. We can say the conversion routines that are there, or the logarithmic, functions that are there. You can see all the string management stuff. Everything is here, and it's there and documented. Now I want to take just the last 5 minutes to talk about the most famous unit, for me at least. It's my favorite unit of the JCL. Now I'm not going to cover it in huge detail. In a prior last year I did the same thing here, and I'm just going to really quickly just type into the source code here, JCL debug, and we are going to open the JCL debug unit. Now I went through the exact details of how to get this to work and in a prior CodeRage session, not this year, it was last year. So go ahead and look at the archives, and you'll find out how to use this. But what it allows us to do is the JCL debug has some functionality that allows us to find out for at any given time what the current call stack is. But my favorite part is the fact that it'll hook the exception management for you. And so with this JCL start exception tracking, what happens is when an exception is raised, it records the call stack at the time of exception there. With a call stack, it's night and day when you get an access violation to know where it might have happened. I get an access violation from a user, and without the call stack, I'm pretty much clueless. With the call stack, I have a tool at my hand to actually go in and figure out which lines of code we're executing, and get a clue of what may have caused it. Well, I've run out of time today. The debug information is covered in previous CodeRage session, and you'll be able to go look at that and see more detail of how to get that to work if you're interested in that. Right now I'd like to just open this up for questions. Thank you.
Okay, so thanks for that presentation, the introduction to the JCL, which I incorrectly referred to as the Jedi Component Library. It's the Jedi Code Library. First question, I'm not sure where it came from. It says, does Disney now own the JCL?
The JCL is open source. It's not owned by anyone.
There you go. I wasn't sure what that was referring to at all. Maybe
I have no idea what that refers to either.
Okay, maybe Daryl wants to clarify that. Let's see.
Jedi, of course, because Star Wars was bought by Disney.
Oh, duh!
Yeah, we're just being stupid with our jokes here.
I must not be awake yet. Of course. Yes, the JCL will be used in Star Wars 7 or whatever the number will be, right? So, and Donald Duck would make an appearance there as well. So anyway, there's a few questions here regarding FireMonkey and JCL. Is any, some, all of the JCL library cross-platform for FireMonkey apps?
I have looked at that, but I have not been able to figure that out for sure. My use of FireMonkey has been limited to just demos at this point, so we're still pretty much a VCL shop here, and so I have not seen it. FireMonkey, it works fine on the Windows platform perfectly. The question is whether or not it works FireMonkey outside of the Windows platform, and I can't answer that question. I just don't know.
All righty. So maybe we can figure that out and let you guys know later on.
Yeah, that's for sure. I have a Mac at home, and I can definitely go in and try that out, and maybe post a blog post about what I find about that. That'd
be cool. What's the best resource of documentation for the JCL?
Well, there's the help files that are available, and that's probably the best source. There's help files, PDFs. The PDFs are thousands upon thousands of pages of documentation. Please, it's just not worth. It's hard to search. It's just like a book. And the help file is much more organized if you use that. My personal preference is the CHM help file, the one that doesn't integrate into the Delphi help. But there is versions of the help that integrates right into the Delphi help library.
All right. If I want to modernize an old DOS application, letting my Windows process feed the DOS process and then pipeline the outputs to a file or other storage, would the execute command be the proper way to do that?
Yes. We have reasons to do the exact same thing. So we use that all the time.
Okay. And here's a question that you may not be able to go into. I'm not sure if it's public information or not. What does the state of Utah use Delphi for?
Oh, well, that's an interesting question. The answer is, yeah, it's public. We unemployment insurance. We do the tax collection for unemployment insurance here, and we have a large Delphi team. In fact, we're hiring right now, and we have 10 Delphi developers, and we're looking to maybe move that up to about 14. And so we've got almost 1.5 million lines of code right now, and it's a big application, but really meets the needs of our users. There is a award that's given every annually to the best unemployment insurance implementation in the nation among all the 50 states, and Utah has won that award for the best UI implementation for the last 2 years running, and so we're pretty proud of what we've done.
That's fantastic. Is there a public release about that, so we can blog about it? That's really cool, actually.
I would have to go look. I believe there is. Right now we're getting lots of emails from our senior management, with all the pats on the back right now because it's just a recent thing that just happened.
Very, very, very cool. That's awesome. Yeah, let us know if we can publicize that. That'd be great. No, of course we just did, right?
Yeah.
So, where do I find the HTML help files?
Well, there's the download link. If you go to the JCL wiki, there's a list of downloads, and right there is, as you scroll, I'm just doing this by memory, but if you scroll down, about halfway or third way down the page, there's a whole section of different help files there. And it's just all the different formats that it's in. It's all the same information.
Are there any routines to get the CPU load that work on current processors?
Are there any routines to get the CPU load?
Yes.
Okay. I honestly don't know. I would guess that there is, but to be honest, I've never had a need for it, and I haven't. With how big the JCL is,
so there's a ton.
I just haven't run across it.
There's a ton of stuff in the JCL, and I'm sure you can search it or find the documentation and search for CPU or processor or something like that, and you can find it. Okay. Edwin, yes, it was nice talking to you as well. Jet lag already kicking in. No, I just wasn't making the connection of the implied reference to JCL being Jedi and then the Disney acquisition. I didn't jump through all those hoops and make that connection. So, yeah, that was just not being awake yet or not thinking too that far. Let's see. SysUtils probably will not work on Mac. Okay, yeah, that probably makes sense. What? Oh, go ahead.
Well, I've thought about one thing here. You know, the JCLs had a long legacy. It worked on Linux with the Clicks platform years ago. And there's a directory called the Common Directory, and then there's a Windows directory. And so I showed a lot of stuff that is in the Windows directory, like the services and tasks. Obviously, those things will never work on a Mac because they just don't apply. But the Common Directory is the one area where it's potential that it's going to work. I just have never tried it.
All right. Why do I need JCL Debug to get a stack trace? Shouldn't this be provided by the RTL in the first place?
Well, it's not. So I can't answer a question of what should be in the product or not.
There you go. So, yep. Let's see. I'm not sure about this question. If you develop for Windows at work and also apparently use Windows apps, why do you have a Mac at home?
Oh, because I'm a Delphi guy, and I've been one for years, and I'm not going to sit behind. So I'm going to make sure that I had it so that I could know and use it, and I've kind of fallen in love with it.
All right, and then of course you use a VMware or something like that and run Windows and
yes,
run Studio XE3 on your Mac. So,
and I think, with the exception of Word and Delphi, I don't think I use my Windows area at all. Otherwise, I'm pretty much on the Mac the rest of the time.
All right. Do you know why EDI-related units and routines have been dropped off the Jedi library?
Well, with any open source, I don't know exactly, but with any open source library, things are only as good as if they're maintained. And the one thing that I have to say about the JCL is what I've been using has been very actively maintained. And if they're not there, I would, my guess would be that there was nobody there that was willing to maintain those, so they were dropped. But that's just a guess.
Oh, sure.